we were discussing about this Kubernetes thing, right? Even discussed a lot of things here, and I believe you guys will be getting this course content from my team, right? You can ask with them to share course content, whoever your POC is, right? Model contact. So just ask with them, they will be sharing this content with you. Just go through it once. Let me describe again the point where we left. So here we were discussing about Kubernetes cluster. How we'll be creating Kubernetes cluster? We'll be creating kube ADM Kubernetes cluster where we'll be having one master and two worker nodes in real time. If you're working on-prem or any cloud Kubernetes, you'll be having multiple master and multiple worker nodes, more than one master and more than one workers. So here we will be having only one master and two worker nodes. Now see this thing here we have Kubernetes objects, how your workloads can be deployed in Kubernetes. Very first basic object we have is pod. What exactly pod is and how we are creating containers inside it, right? A pod can have multiple containers. So we will be creating a pod with single container, pod with multi-container. We will be accessing our application from the pod by creating node port service. We have different services, load balancer, node port, cluster, right? We'll be discussing them in detail. So we'll be learning about different type of pod, static pod, what is init container, how we will be defining resources, this word I'm not liking this word to mention here, allocation CPU memory. We will not be allocating anything, but we will be defining how much minimum and maximum resource can be utilized by your containers, right? So that will be defining, and how scheduling happens while your container is having a resource configuration on your container. Minimum resource should be available always whenever you are deploying your pod in any node, right? So how it happens with implementing practically. By having this pod object, you cannot achieve highly availability. What it does mean? So if you created a deployment, a pod, basically, you deployed your application using pod object. So pod object, let's say your pod got deleted mistakenly, or whichever node your pod was scheduled, that node is not reachable. So again, your application will not be accessible. How to achieve high availability? To achieve high availability, we are having different Kubernetes objects like a resource replication controller, a replica set, deployment, how these object works. Deployment object is the latest one, and always we'll be deploying our application using deployment object. What exactly deployment object will do? Deployment object will be doing reconciliation. Let's say you deployed one application with three replicas. It means we should have always three replica up and running in our Kubernetes cluster, right? If anyhow one pod got deleted by some user, so deployment object will be creating that pod quickly. If your node is not available wherever your pods are running, so deployment object will recreate those pods in available node, right? So this is how it will doing reconciliation. So replica set works with deployment in backend, right? You can create independent replica set and replica. What happens is replica set will be helping you to create pod with multiple replicas. Replication controller will do the same thing. What exactly these objects are, we'll be implementing them practically. As I was mentioning here, deployment works with a replica set. So what happens is whenever you create a deployment, replica set will be created in backend, and there your pod will be created through replica set. Why it is happening, by the way? Deployments give you one of the feature of rollback and rolling updates. Okay, you can perform a rolling updates and you can perform rollbacks too. So deployment objects creates replica set which maintains history of your previous or older deployments. How it happens? We will be implementing this practically. Even we'll be creating some diagrams. We'll be having so many things to implement actually here, and how to check deployment history, how to perform rolling updates, how to do rollback if anything goes wrong. So the main feature of Kubernetes is HPA, horizontal pod order scaling. What exactly this HPA is? What exactly this HPA is, right? So once CPU or memory usage is reaching to particular threshold, your pod, pod will not be able to serve the traffic at the time. HPA checks if threshold is happening, new additional pods replica will be added on your cluster so that it can serve the traffic. How it happens, right? They will be implementing it practically, will be creating some deployment, will be putting load on it, and will be creating HPA, and HPA will be creating a defined number of pod. So, HBA is something which will not be going and randomly creating n number of pods to achieve high availability. It's not like that. So you need to define in HPA how many pods, how many minimum number of pod should run always in your cluster for that particular deployment. If threshold is happening based on CPU or memory, so how many how many number of pods can be created? Minimum you are defining, let's say 3 pods should always be there. And what you want to do is you are defining maximum number of pod is 10. So 10 pods should always once threshold is reaching, so maximum or additionally overall we can have 10 number of replicas. So 7 pods can be created. How those 7 pods will be created, that you should know. We'll be learning about it, how additional pods are going and getting created. Obviously, it will not be like this once threshold is happening. So it doesn't mean that 7 pod will be created immediately to make sure maximum 10 pods, right? It's not like that. Fewer pod will be created. And again, it will be checking again threshold is happening. So few more will be created. So we'll be implementing it. So you don't have to worry about this one. After that, we have daemon set, stateful set. Daemon set is something Kubernetes object which will be helping you to deploy logging and monitoring tool. We are defining replicas in deployment object. Like here, how many replicas should always be up and running in your deployment. You're defining 3 for an example, or 2 or 5, whatever. So deployment object will not guarantee you that your pod will be going and getting deployed in each of the nodes. So main thing in logging and monitoring tools is our monitoring pod should go, or monitoring application should go and get deployed in each of available worker or whatever nodes we have. How it happens, who guarantees you that your pod will be going and getting deployed in each of the node, even in future if I'm adding more nodes in my Kubernetes cluster. So how those nodes will be getting my monitoring or logging pods getting deployed in it. If some of the node got removed from the cluster, so my pod should not struggle, or my system should not struggle what happened to those pods. Once node is removed, those pods should also be removed. Right, so how this will happen? Through daemon side. Through daemon side, it will happen. We'll be learning about this one as well. We have stateful side. Let's say I want to deploy some clustered application. What those clustered applications are? Let's say I want to deploy MySQL cluster in Kubernetes. So how it will be happening? And I want to deploy HashiCorp Vault, or I want to deploy Kafka. So means clustered application. Clustered application, how you can deploy? You can deploy it through stateful set. What all feature and functionality stateful set provides? I'm mentioning these names like MySQL cluster or HashiCorp Vault or something Kafka. So it doesn't mean that I will be doing installation or implementation of these applications. I'm just giving you example here. So I will be introducing you what exactly stateful sets are, what exactly additional different feature stateful sets are having that deployment object don't have. We're discussing about it. What all clustered application required additional features to make your application up and running, those will be covered here. Like we will be learning about headless service. We'll be learning about uh, volume templates and stateful set. Those things will be covered here. Volumes, right? Persist the data. How will be persisting the data? Using volumes. what type of volumes we have, right? We have different type of ephemeral volumes like empty directory volume, which is the main thing, ephemeral volume. As soon as your pod is deleted, volume will be deleted and removed. Nothing can be recovered. Host path volume, let's say I want to access some of the data from my Kubernetes nodes, or I want to store my applications data in one of the node. So how we'll be doing that through host path volume, we'll be implementing this one as well practically. So we have two type of volume provisioning method: static volume provisioning and dynamic volume provisioning. So what exactly these are, what is PV, PVC, storage class, those things will be discussed in detail. Now, we have services, different type of services we have, as earlier I mentioned and above, like cluster IP service to communicate within the cluster from one part to another. My backend is running and it wants to accessed by front end, right? Front end wants to access backend. So how it will happen? Those things will be done by cluster IP service. I want to access my application outside of the cluster. Then we have node port service, we have load balancer, even we have ingress, right? Here in this training session, we'll be learning about ingress controller. We will be accessing our application through ingress. So here we are seeing if you want to access your application outside of the cluster, so we have what we have node port and load balancer. Node port is something which will be IP address plus port number, and load balancer is something it's gonna show you some huge FQDN or else IP addresses, which is difficult for your users to remember port number and IP addresses. This is a big thing. So how we can make it easy so human can remember, right? We can remember domain names, anish.com, arun.com, google.com, blah blah.com, something, right? So here we have ingress controllers which will be helping us to make our application accessible through domain names. So we will be implementing nginx ingress controller. We have many ingress controllers. We have we can do this with HTU as well. We can do it with HA proxy. We have so many type of ingress controller. You will be looking those names as well while we implementing this. So path-based routing, what exactly it is, how to access your application based on root domain, TLS, self-signed certificate, how we can add on our application, right? So we have a lot things to cover. So yes, so we'll be talking about config map in environment variable in in form of in volumes, how to use your data in environment variable and volumes. We'll be learning about those things and secret. Secret is very similar to config map. Here in config map, your data will be kept in plain text, but here, what happens is in secret, your data will be encrypted in base 64. So this is what we will be exploring it. Services as I discussed here, ingress controller to access your application through domain names. Based on domain name, nginx ingress controller we have. We will be learning about scheduling, what exactly scheduling is. We have different type of scheduling mechanism based on the node name. We can send our pod to get deployed there. Based on node selector, node selectors are nothing but on labels added on the node. We can have multiple nodes with some similar label, and my requirement is, let's say I want to deploy my pod in a node which is having GPUs, right? So we can add label node GPU something, right? So based on the node label, we can deploy pod, which will be covered in node selector. We have a pod affinity, NT affinity, node affinity, node NT affinity. This is very advanced topic regarding scheduling, which is required in CKA exam. So these things will be covered in our training session. Taint and toleration, what exactly it is. Again, it works with node labels, but it comes up with additional effects. Those will be covered. And checking the health of your application using readiness, liveness, a startup probe, right? What exactly these are, we'll be learning about them. The advanced thing here we have is how we will be allowing access to our team members, right? Let's say we have multiple users. Based on their role, we want to assign our Kubernetes clusters access to them. How it will happen, right? So those things will be covered using RBAC, role-based access control. So we will be creating Linux users in our node, and we will be giving them access. Let's say I want to allow my users to see particular namespace and its object. So we will be implementing role and role binding. What exactly role is, what exactly role binding is, we'll be learning about it. We'll be exploring it. If you want to allow your users to see cluster-wide resources, like I want to give my users to cluster-wide access, so then we'll be implementing cluster role, we'll be implementing cluster role binding. Why these two objects are separate, cluster role and cluster role binding, that will be discussed in detail. And here we have kubeconfig file, how your users are accessing your cluster, how to get the kubeconfig file, how to generate it if you are an administrator, right? So those things will be discussed. Service account, let's say in my application, my some of the application is having boards and programs, those wants to access some Kubernetes resources, like your monitoring and logging applications wants to access Kubernetes resources, how it is happening. So based on service account, we will be giving some access to the users. That's what we will be implementing, guys.